together, and that they remain a very international company too. It's not like they started out as being a small British company to begin with.
Well, look, it's a great thing that Astra is so successful, and they've got a good pipeline of new products. So, I mean, in many respects, what I would like to see more of is less of people like Pfizer or or Hewlett-Packard coming in and taking over British companies. I'd like to see our companies doing more of the taking over.
Also just worth mentioning that Chukwumuna there, that he was saying he's not against foreign takeovers of British firms. He welcomes that as well. He started out the interview by saying that. Listen, I'm joined here in the studio by Jeremy Stretch. He's head of FX strategy at CNBC.
Hi.
Welcome, Jeremy. Hello.
Good to be here.
Good to have you here for the full hour. Also with us is James Hay, an equity analyst at Brewin Dolphin. Hi, James.
Good afternoon. Nice to be back.
Good afternoon. So what's going to happen? Are we going to have another counterbid, do you think, or an additional, even more sweetened bid?
I think that's probably very likely, yes. If historical precedents anything to go by, what you saw when Pfizer bought Wyeth was initially a 32% premium and then it coming back with a 40% premium. Now in this case, and I'm not saying historical precedents apply, obviously very different markets, this was back in 2009, but if Pfizer did come back with a 40% premium, that would put AstraZeneca at about £53 a share. I would imagine what they would do to maybe address some of the concerns we heard about earlier is add that extra £3 in cash. That would really mitigate a lot of the benefit from the tax inversion structure and really just say to AstraZeneca, look, we do value the opportunities in your pipeline and we are prepared to pay a little bit more for those.
Chukwumuna has been quite vocal about criticizing Pfizer for stripping assets out of companies in the past. I mean, does he have a point there? Does he have a point that you want to protect, you know, the company as it stands now, and you might want to make sure that jobs aren't shed?
I think there's a little bit to it. I mean, AstraZeneca and Pfizer, they could probably strip out about 20% of their R&D. Now, the combined entity would have about 20,000 global R&D employees. If you take out, say, 20% of that, that leaves you with 16,000, and Pfizer has promised the government that it will maintain at least 20% of that. So you're looking at 3,200 jobs in the UK alone. And at the moment, AstraZeneca has around about 2,000 employees, Pfizer 800, 900 employees. So actually, the number that Pfizer have promised is still less than what is currently there. And on top of that, Pfizer has promised to carry on with the Cambridge hub that's being developed by AstraZeneca and also keep the manufacturing facility in Macclesfield as well. So I think, yes, it could be a very good thing for UK life science.
How are you viewing the developments at the moment?
Well, I think it's fascinating because obviously, you know, the appetite for foreign investment or foreign inflows, I think, is going to be relevant from an FX perspective, clearly, because if we are talking about potentially another bid coming in from Pfizer, then if it were to be successful, we would be talking about a very sizable potential clump of sterling to be bought. So clearly, from that perspective, I think it's relevant. I think it's also relevant in terms of the broader macro environment because, of course, it's also reflective, perhaps, of a broader improvement in the economic fundamentals. There's also a reliance on M&A coming back into the fray because, of course, that's an assumption in terms of growth prospects being maintained, and it's an opportunity or a mechanism that's really sort of pursuing that process.
The argument about the tax benefits as well. I mean, the British government initially, Labour or under Labour, they were the ones that proposed kind of a levelling off or some tax benefits, basically. And then there are other tax benefits on top of that. But, I mean, it still makes British companies quite attractive to some of these overseas bidders.
It does, yeah. I mean, the patent box, especially in the life sciences, I mean, that has potential to significantly reduce the tax that's paid on intellectual property or the manufacturing based on UK intellectual property. So the UK does remain a very, very attractive place to do life science industry. And, I mean, the US, I mean, they tried to limit this sort of tax inversion. They introduced Section 7874 in the 2004 Jobs Act to try and sort of curtail a little bit the tax inversion structure. And I think Congress may well have something to say about this on the Pfizer side, but that is yet to be announced. And as I say, if Pfizer do come back with a slightly higher cash offer, cash proportion, then it's more likely that people will start to say, okay, well, they do value the pipeline, and therefore maybe it's not just all about tax.
So if I'm an investor out there, I mean, do I buy into the drugs industry now, do you think? I mean, is there more room for a lift?
I think it's an interesting time in the drugs industry. What we've seen recently with a lot of the consolidations and merger activity is companies are starting to really focus on the areas they want to really be the leaders in.
Yeah.
And once they've sort of integrated all their new businesses, whether that be Novartis and Glaxo now on Glaxo's oncology business, or whether that be Glaxo with its new consumer or its new vaccines business, from there they should start able to drive some growth, get some synergies, drive some operational leverage, and bring some growth back into the sector, which has been dwindling in the face of the patent cliff.
James, thank you very much. Have a
Louisa,
good weekend.
Yeah,
it's right around the corner. You bet I will, always. James Hay, equity analyst at Brewin Dolphin. It's also interesting in terms of the flows. You're saying, look, there's M&A activity here. It means that you might.
Well, absolutely.
Same with the euro.
It is absolutely
Which is a headache for the ECB.
Indeed. I mean, yes, if GE and the Alstom deal were to go ahead, and obviously it depends whether GE would actually need fresh cash or whether they've got euros already sitting on their balance sheet external to the US, which I think is an interesting additional question. But clearly, from a broader perspective, if we are going to have potential M&A inflows into both Europe and the UK, then inevitably that would imply that